Mid-2000s fashion was definitely quirky and colorful, but one reality show to advertise this era would be What Not to Wear. Now, before I jump into this video, I am going to be talking about the American version of the show that aired on TLC, as it was what my kid mind would be subjected to when I was bored playing hooky from school. Let me just tell you that TLC would constantly have reruns of the show midday, which was entertaining of the time, but has not aged well, as I have noticed some very uncomfortable situations when rewatching a few episodes. I will speak more on that later in this video because it does feel like we are going back to the 2000s with body dysmorphia and Ozempic-like drugs being linked to that image. What Not to Wear would make a statement in the mid-2000s by showing audiences around the world of fashion, which in return gave us the current landscape of pop culture within Met Gala appearances. But the show would also inspire stylists or fashionistas around the world to not only care about the vision they have, but also how we should treat someone's particular style. This reality show would have some very transformative moments, as well as controversy behind the scenes due to some drama with the faces of what not to wear. But it wasn't just a drama that would push the show to the end after 10 seasons, as it felt more like an insult to be featured. What happened to What Not to Wear, and why was the show so messy? What Not to Wear would smash reality TV in the mid-2000s alongside shows like LA Inc., Kate Plus 8, and Say Yes to the Dress. TLC definitely had some interesting shows during that time, but they for sure haven't aged well. This reality show would hit the air in 2003, giving US audiences a new way to view fashion. I have to note that there is a UK version that predates what would be seen on TLC, and could be stated that because of its success, it would have an American adaptation. The 2000s were definitely filled with the migration of successful films and shows in US pop culture. I mean, just take a look at films like The Ring. The show's faces, which saw some change after season 2, would primarily be remembered as Stacey London and Clinton Kelly for the full series of this reality show. Each person introduced in every episode would be submitted by someone close to them for a total makeover, as their fashion sense would be seen as hideous, which to me seems a bit rude. I can only imagine the conversations that unfolded and how many relationships ended because of this. Now, most people already know the gist of the show, so I won't over explain everything, but I do need to make the comparison that both the UK and US versions are similar, especially with criticisms or insults really. But it was definitely interesting to see the transformation, which is why so many people, including myself, were drawn to this show. This was 2000s fashion, so it is a bit outdated, but they do go into detail as to why each selection Stacey and Clinton chose would be the ideal fit, which could be used in today's time, especially with nostalgia. As the reality series unfolded, so would the drama and backlash, leaving for an uncomfortable but reasonable amount of distasteful palettes. Rewatching What Not to Wear has really shown how beauty standards have changed within 20 years. There was a particular way in which society, or really culture, pushed women to look in the 2000s, which to me seems to be a bit toxic, and this show hits that era. As each episode unfolded, we got to see the true colors of why so many people have made numerous commentary videos about its toxicity. Now, I hinted at this earlier in my video, but I find it extremely hurtful that friends or family would recommend the person showcased to have poor fashion sense. Not to mention the secret of filming that would be used to pass judgment. I would have to say it is a little odd to follow someone for days at a time just to judge their appearance. It wasn't just uncomfortable production situations, as the show could be seen as more fat phobic, but also have millions of snarky remarks from both Stacey and Clinton about how each person looked awful with their appearance. They would always hint that it was just tough love, but a lot of the people featured would cry either on camera or behind the hotel room they were put in, which this very thing could be stated in articles from Glamour. The whole purpose of these ugly remarks was to break someone only to build them back up at the end when they got to see how they changed. However, we need to think about the psychology of it all. Again, what society has deemed to be beauty is not always the standard. What I found to be interesting throughout my research for this video was both both the US and UK of What Not to Wear had this tasteless banter, almost like it was a production decision behind the scenes. 2000s reality TV was full of reactionary content to drama for views, and this show was no exception. You can see this very thing on What Not to Wear on TLC's YouTube channel, as I discovered it to be edited in a way that is drastically different to what was aired, which brings more reaction. Going back to behind the scene, the show faced a reputation of toxic environments, as well as Stacey and Clinton having a public fallout on social media. These uncomfortable situations would lead to the show's end in 2013, but would fashion come back with a big FU? What Not to Wear did showcase toxicity, undesirable standards, and wild 2000s fashion sense, but it also gave way to better treatment within the industry as well as pop culture. It cannot go unnoticed of how many articles would speak on the corporate style used within the show, which would in return bring us other palettes to focus on at the end of the 2000s. Even through the episodes, the choices Stacey and Clinton had used as examples would highlight to future stylists of how to approach someone's unique taste. It also gave way to more body positivity, which ultimately changed every aspect of fashion culture. Through this show, we got past magazines and red carpet events in which it showcased that you can have tasteful flair at an affordable price, which is something that millions of people would dream of each day. It inspired a whole new wave of fashion influencers, and while Paris Hilton is one of the pioneers, I would have to say this show was first because it gave people a way to look at the industry. Now, I wasn't the only one who binge watched this show in the 2000s, as it was very favored with audiences, so much so that it would have a comeback tour under the new name Wear Whatever the F You Want, which focuses less on judgment and more on style. So before I end this video, I want to touch back on the current landscape of body dysmorphia and how it ties into the 2000s beauty standards. Since Ozempic's appearance in the 2020s, the constant abuse from celebrities using the drug to stay in frame created an uptick within society that being skinny is the norm. This very thing plagued the 2000s and was really toxic. While I do believe that living a healthier lifestyle creates a better experience, we should not focus on what is defined as beauty through social media or headlines. It is what you want to achieve with yourself that defines your style each day.